Welcome to the 2018 GRCC Board of Trustee Election Forum hosted by the Grand Rapids Community College Faculty Association, the Grand Rapids Community College Academic Governing Council, and Student Alliance, which is essentially our student government or student leadership group. My name is Dr. Frank Connor. I am the president of the Faculty Association and chair of the psychology department.
Good afternoon. I'm Nick Antonakis. I'm the visual arts department head, and I'm also representing AGC, the Academic Governing Council. I'm the chair of the executive committee for the AGC.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Wynn, and I am the president of Student Alliance right here.
Thank you. For everyone who is attending, I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of the process. First, you may notice that there are only 3 candidates here. We heard from last minute from Troy Williams that he could not be here today, that a scheduling conflict came up. So we will move forward. He did send his regrets yesterday, but we will move forward with the 3 other candidates. The process is fairly straightforward. We have a set of 3 questions, and then each candidate will be allowed to open, and then there will be 3 set questions that each candidate will answer. They will be timed for the opening introduction. They have 5 minutes each. For the 3 set questions, they have 2 minutes each. I will be managing the time. I was told by the candidates 2 years ago that was the most frightening part. I don't know if it was me or the time. I didn't choose to ask which it was. Sometimes it's best just not to know. And then after the structured part, we will open up the Q&A to the community. And so Nick Antonakis will be managing that part as well. And he'll go through the process of standing, giving your name. You can direct a question to a single candidate. The other candidates can choose to answer that, or you can direct it to all 3 candidates. So Nick will begin, and for this opening piece, you will have 5 minutes each.
Thank you, Frank. The candidates can see the questions in front of them, so I will read through that. The first part is to have a brief introduction with a biographical statement, including the education, the work history, and community activities. And then a statement of your candidacy, including your rationale for running for the Board of Trustees and your philosophy of education, specifically higher education. Also, your perspective on the mission of Grand Rapids Community College. You will have 5 minutes for this part, and we will start with Kathy Crosby.
That's what I get for being at the end of the table. Hello, everyone. I am Kathy Crosby, and I've been a resident of Grand Rapids for 12 years. Moved here in 2006. I am, I think above and beyond all else, a lifelong learner. I did not start that way. I was born into a very rural family in northwest Oakland County, and kind of the tail end surprise to my parents, so I always say I was raised in the 1950s with a 1930s mentality. And that meant my parents, particularly my dad, had a plan for each of his child's lives. When we got to the end of high school, he knew what we were going to do. And there wasn't a time that it was ever talked to me about going on to college. Just wasn't in the plan. I was to certainly work was important, marriage and children was important, but I was taught how to work the farm and can fruits and vegetables and sew clothes and make quilts and do all the domestic things that you had to do to be a good mom. But life had its own twist, and I went to work when I was a young mother at the local school district, and when I got laid off from that job in 1980, it was a hardship for my husband and I. We were used to having that second income, so I went looking for another job, and I always say the luckiest day of my life is Goodwill hired me. What I found at Goodwill were mentors and encouragement, and that turned out to be everything to me. So at 32, I went to Oakland Community College and pursued an associate's degree, and it changed my life. It changed my life. I thought I was going to be an accountant. I soon learned that was a bad idea. No personality for that. But from Oakland Community College, I went on to Adrian University. And I always remind younger people that I meet, this is before technology. I was driving to Adrian from Oakland County every Saturday and some evenings to get those classes done. And so it took a number of years. And in fact, by the time I got my bachelor's degree, I was 43. But by then I was hooked. And so I went on to get a master's degree from Adrian, from Siena Heights. I got a master's degree in organizational development. And that, interestingly enough, really helped to advance my career in ways that I could not have imagined. I was still living in Oakland County, commuting to Detroit, and all of a sudden I got an invitation to go to work in Washington, D.C. Now, I do say I have the most wonderful husband in the world. He said, I think it's your turn, and quit his job and decided he could find another one, and we went to the D.C. area, where I went to work for Goodwill International and led the development of their leadership development program and their grant program across the United States. I traveled a lot. I visited over half of the Goodwills in the world and learned a great deal about business and serving people and government programs and what it meant to advance your life and have more confidence and take risk. I felt a little like Mary Tyler Moore on the steps of the Department of Labor one day in about 1999 because I'd never been away from Oakland County on my own, and all of a sudden I was hailing a cab on the sidewalk in DC and thinking, how did I get here? And is anybody going to stop and give me a ride? By the time I was there a couple years, I decided I need to learn again, and I did the MBA program at the University of Maryland. Yep, I went back to school in my 50s. And I think it was the most important degree I ever got because I was there with a lot of younger people and new technology. And that econ class that was one chapter in the back of a book was now 2 semesters because economics had changed so much. And I kept learning. And eventually, in 2006, I applied for the CEO's job here to get back to Michigan, and this is where I've been. This community was very welcoming. I've been very engaged in the community here, joining the Economic Club, the YMCA, serving on the boards of several nonprofits, as well as the Healthcare Advisory Board at Grand Valley and the Regional Air Alliance for the right place, some of the opportunities to be part of advising and guidance. Very, very lucky that my family has all moved here now. Our children and grandchildren live here as well. And Grand Rapids has definitely become home. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crosby. Next, we will hear from Carlos Sanchez.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Of course, thank you everyone for being here. It is fantastic. Just a few days from casting your ballot, all of you are interested in what's happening here at the college. It's something that for some might not be that transcendental of a vote, but of course for the college it is important. So thank you for being here. I was born and raised in Mexico City. I will say that I think from a very early age it was instilled in me that education was the path for upward mobility. My mother moved from the countryside in Mexico to the city where she became a teacher. So although I facilitate classes where I do at Ferris State University, when someone asks if I am a teacher, I will say no, I am a facilitator. My mom passed a few years back, and I feel that if I even hint that I teach, I will feel that she will come back from the grave and smack in the back of the head. You are not a teacher. You do anything but teach. So I have great respect for professors, for teachers in general, education in general. My father, an electrical engineer, also first generation college grad. So from day one, it was just what I was going to do, what college I was going to attend. I went to in Mexico City. I did 3 years at a college. I joined in an internship, an international company that took me abroad, and I felt that that was life, that was it. So for the following 4 years, never came back home, never finished, came back home, but never came back to school, so I didn't finish college in Mexico. Several years later, when I met my wife and came here, the first thing I noticed, one of the first things I noticed actually, working in the car business, I was selling cars, is that without a degree, I was not going to amount for much in the professional setting. So not knowing the system, not having gone through the educational system here in the U.S., the community college provided that quote-unquote safe space, safe transitional space into that educational system that again was new for me. That was the first my first encounter with the college and the educational system. It served the purpose. It was fantastic. I had a great time here. I was one of those our 70% students. I was part-time because I was also working, and that provided me the foundation to transfer to Davenport University, and that's where I got my degree in business with the concentration in international business. I've worked in different areas, trying to find my space here. Serve on different committees, boards, and committees. We were members of the Y board. I've been board member also at the Hispanic Center, at the Hispanic Chamber. Anyways, I've been serving my community as a way of, if not giving back, but I guess paying it forward. Because of the welcome that I received when I came to this town. I will say that what the community college provided for me is it was also that safe space because I was not different from many others. There were a lot of people like me that looked like me. There were immigrants. There were older students. They were seeking to further their career, again trying to gain that upward mobility, that access to achieve something else, and that's what the college gave me. The college prepared me also to be an important part of the community and to work for the community in this space. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Next, we'll hear from Cheryl Siegel.
Thank you. And thank you as well for being here this afternoon. Many people know me through our family business, Siegel Jewelers. Siegel Jewelers is a well-respected name in this community for 129 years. I'm extremely proud of the philanthropic nature of our company. Don't tell anybody, but Siegel Jewelers gives a donation to every charity that knocks on our doors. I'm especially proud of our partnership with the Grand Rapids Public School for the last 19 years. A school that serves severely emotionally impaired children. We donate caps and gowns and medals for graduation, donate and prepare meals, and our family has the teachers from the school to our home for dinner at the end of the school year. What you may not know about me is that I'm an education professional with expertise in strengthening school communities to improve student outcomes. I've devoted my career to team building in schools to promote best practices and ways to engage students. I'm board president of Wellspring Preparatory High School. It's a public high school in which I collaborate with colleagues to set the strategy, the vision, and the goals that has turned Wellspring from a good school into a great one. U.S. News and World Report awarded Wellspring the rank of the #1 high school in Michigan in 2017. Our student population is comprised of a 52% minority, and we have a number of students entering 9th grade, reading well below grade level. And yet we have a very high graduation and college acceptance rate. And I believe that's due to our school's mission to be as intentional about graduating good people as we are good students. I'm also a board member of an outstanding school program, True Success, that's turning schools with high behaviors into high-performing learning environments. True Success is used in over 80 schools, 8 in Grand Rapids Public. The program generates meaningful discussion among students and engages them to reflect on the consequences of their own behavior. I was appointed to the East Grand Rapids Superintendent's Advisory Council to be an advocate for East Grand Rapids schools, talking to community leaders and citizens about their views on the schools and school issues. I've been a tutor and substitute teacher in Grand Rapids Public Schools. I've been guardian for 26 years of a young woman who was taken out of the house for sexual abuse, a foster parent to a teen boy, and now mentor a student at Union High School who spent most of her life in foster care. I graduated from Michigan State University and went off to teach in the backwoods of Michigan in one of the most economically depressed areas in the state. Why am I running? Can you imagine downtown Grand Rapids without community college? Probably not. It's hard to imagine because community college is not only the geographic center of our city, but the center of our city's vibrance, energy, innovation, and growth. Citizens recognize that their tax dollars are well spent on a college that's been a major contributor to making West Michigan one of the best places in the country to live. I owe this college for the foundation it provided our son to be successful at Kendall, for the classes our foster son enjoyed due to dedicated and engaging faculty, and for the ability of hundreds of students in our community to succeed for perhaps the first time in their academic career. While Grand Rapids Community College's mission is to help students attain their goals and be contributing members of society, faculty go well beyond the classroom to mentor, to tutor, and to coach students, especially the underserved, to ensure they have every opportunity to gain social and economic mobility. Given my expertise in creating school cultures noted for academic and personal excellence, I want to serve this school and this community in a leadership role where student success drives every decision.
Thank you, Mrs. Siegel. So the next question, we'll have 2 minutes for each candidate to answer it. And the question is, you have been given a list of the college's values. Do you think these are sufficient to provide guidance for the college's work, and do they represent the will of the community we're here to serve? And the list of these values are excellence, diversity, responsiveness, innovation, accountability, sustainability, respect, and integrity. We will start with Kathy Crosby.
Thank you. I think values are absolutely critical to the success of business, our college, and our community. And these values that have been adopted by GRCC, I believe, are very much in line with the community of Grand Rapids and indeed Greater Kent County. I think they have the tone and the character in them that let us serve people and come together around what they represent. There are places that perhaps we would today tweak their definition a bit. Should innovation include curiosity? Should our excellence encumber continuous learning? But those are expansion and revisiting the definition of very solid terms that serve us well because they're so important to the college and to us. GRCC is really a portal to success for people in this community. It's an entrance point, and it's where the community and business and our students come together, and they come together around these values. It's there that we find the alignment that allow us to work together, and I'm impressed with the staff and my connections to CC because these values are lived and become very clear. Whether we've interfaced in collaboration, my grandson is a student here, my son attended here, however I've connected to the college, I can tell you that these are values that are alive and well.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Cheryl Siegel.
A successful community college is transformative, providing an education that is both practical and fulfilling. I would add to these list of tremendously important values. Well-rounded. Community colleges are unique academic institutions where you can take a welding class, cross the street, and be reading Aristotle. What other institution of higher learning provides the opportunity to gain a valuable skill in one class and be challenged by life's eternal questions in another? What is the purpose of my life? How do I know I'm making the right decision? Low-cost community college provides students the opportunity to take a variety of classes, to find their passion, and to expand their intellectual universe. Not a state college or even an Ivy League school offers the breadth of options equal to this college.
Thank you. And next we have Carlos Sanchez.
Thank you. Yes, I think there's sufficient, and I also would add that I've been in this position already for a little over a year, and in every single report that we hear from the staff, you can see these values, right? And every time they report to us, every time they share information, you can see the values. You can see they look at these values as their guiding principles, as their North Star. What I will also say is that they are not just, they transcend every group, the racial or gender group that attends our college. So absolutely they are, if not sufficient, but they are what guide the college. But also, I see these values not just as static and as aspirational, but I see these values. I see our students can attach themselves to some of these values, and they can take, if not all of them, they take some of these values as their guiding principles on their own to succeed and to lead their own lives. Respect, integrity, being responsive, to search for excellence in everything they do. These are, I think, these are the values that our staff and our faculty transmit to our students, so they can in turn, again, take things, some of them, if not all of them, on their own, and live their lives by.
Thank you very much. So the next question is, the college has 5 goals, and these are teaching and learning, completion and transfer, equity, community impact, and infrastructure and sustainability. Do you believe these are appropriate outcomes for the college, And how would you evaluate or rank these 5 goals in relationship to each other? This time, we're going to start with Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you. Well, we have to first start from by remembering that these goals were developed by the staff, right? By the leadership, and these goals, much as well as the values, can they guide the work of every faculty and every staff member as they work as they work every day in what they do. However, the best thing about this value, about these 5 goals, is that almost every single person can attach themselves to this in their work. I remember a conversation that we had at the board level where President Pink brought up the issue of the infrastructure and sustainability, because sometimes when we develop a strategic plan, there are those in positions that might feel that their goals of the institution don't really pertain to them. But in this case, even the folks that clean the classrooms, right? They can take these goals, particularly, let's say the one in infrastructure, and they say, I have a piece, the little piece that I do here at the college affects the strategic goals of the organization. So everybody can attach themselves to one of these and leave these goals and work again every single day. These goals don't leave anybody behind.
Thank you very much. And next, Kathy Crosby.
When I read through the goals, I really was taken with how meaningful they were to every part of the community college family. For our instructional staff, for our development staff, our relationships with the community and our students, there are goals here for everyone to relate to, and I think that's critically important, and I think it speaks to them. They must have been developed in a collaborative way, because you can feel the imprint of a lot of people in these goals. Goals have real value to us as we measure against them and report against them and convince both ourselves and our constituents how we're doing. But I think they have to be living and breathing. We can't just let them sit on the paper and never evolve. The idea of learning today is never really complete. I don't know that we're really helping anyone to learn the information they'll need in a decade, because we're not really sure what that is. And so it keeps evolving, and teaching and learning becomes continuous. Completion and transfers got some connotations to that as well. When is it complete? What do you transfer? Are we looking at it in the same context, all of us? But I really appreciate these goals and what's inherent in them. I think the idea of prioritizing them starts with understanding equity and the fact that if we aren't empathetic to everyone who's here, we cannot possibly achieve the other goals.
Thanks again. Ms. Siegel?
The goals certainly are commendable, and if faculty and board has coalesced on these, it makes them even more relevant and important. I think that the goals define the pathways and add clarity to the array of choices available to students on their way to an associate's degree, a certificate, or transfer to another institution. But education is more than finding a good job. It's about finding yourself. By keeping costs low, community college students are afforded the luxury of exploring everything from soup in the culinary arts program to nuts in the tech centers. To find their career passion in the humanities, to wrestle with differing ideas and what principles best lead to human flourishing. Tolkien wrote, "Not all who wander are lost. We want our students to take a variety of classes, to be challenged with ideas never thought of, and to struggle with different ways of thinking. The ends are not these goals, nor the pathways. The ends are the kind of people we want to graduate. Optimistic, competent, hardworking, with a love for learning and a passion for helping others.
Thank you very much. We have come to the final prepared question, and after this final question, we will have the open floor questions. So this one is, please describe your understanding of policy governance and the role of a trustee in the daily activities of the college. And this time we'll start with Cheryl Siegel.
As a member of 2 governance boards, I'm well aware and very familiar with governance boards who are vision setters and not micromanagers. We're an oversight policymakers who drive the college to fulfill its mission. Governing boards, of course, have a fiduciary responsibility to the community, whose tax dollars are entrusted to us to effectively and efficiently educate adults to fill in-demand jobs and to be informed and contributing citizens. Governing boards are future-oriented, ensuring the college's sustainability through public and private partnerships, championing the college's vital role in this community, and ensuring that the values of the college are being well served in every decision the board makes.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchez.
Sure. Yes, policy governance is also as being a member of a couple of boards that were guided by that type of governance, including the Open Meetings Act and the Hispanic Latino Commission of Michigan. I'm well aware of what we can and we can't do. But again, of course we have the guidelines, right? But I think what instructs the board is not just by just the guidelines of what we can and we can't do, but further, what is that the board is in charge with? What is, and I see the board. The board is the body that takes the flame of the organization and sees 5, 10, 15 years ahead, and informs the president, that is the only employee of the board, informs the president and works with the president in that vision of what is to come for the organization. One thing that, for example, that we wouldn't be doing is just to freely contacting a member of leadership, for example, the provost, and guide the provost on how he or she should perform the duties of the provost. Right? We go to the president of the organization, and we share whether our concerns or our thoughts, so the president can in turn connect with that and having that conversation with the provost, if that is the case. I see again the work of the board as the keeper of the, I'm sorry, I'm blanking, the keeper of the flame, that works on behalf of the community, because the community are those that have elected, in this case, to manage to guide the organization.
Thank you. Mrs. Crosby?
I believe that years of serving on national, state, and local boards have given me a good perspective on governance, and definitely the role of a good governance board is being strategic, looking forward, and understanding what tomorrow requires of us, not what the operations of today do. We trust that when those strategic plans are properly made, they've been formed by listening to all the constituents and staying really informed about what the needs are around us in the community. But it's not our job in governance to direct those activities. Our job is to be fiscally responsible, to vision and strategize on the best direction to go for the future, to support our president and the staff in helping develop what's needed to achieve all of the goals that people seek to achieve, and to be there as a foundation of interface with the community, to represent the college well, to be willing to have you say, yes, she's on our board of trustees. We're proud of that, and you're happy to have me be in the community, because it has to be a relationship that's good for the future, not just for today.
Thank you. So this next segment of our forum is for open questions. If you could stand, state your name and position at the college or community member, ask a question to one or any of the candidates. Candidate, please limit your answer to no more than 2 minutes. Other candidates can respond also.
Thank you, Frank. I'm Kevin Dobrev. I'm the program director of the music department at GRCC. My question is to all three of you. A number of you spoke about the opportunities for students to take a smorgasbord of classes here at the community college, but in light of the government's approach to financial aid, and some students are placed in a situation where they have to focus specifically on program classes that would prevent them from taking courses that are outside of that program, such as music and art. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay. I can't think of anything more important to a person's development than the arts. And somehow we've failed to convince some of those funding sources how important they are to a person's being well-rounded, actually to their ability to learn. The connection between music and math is extraordinary. The connection between art and spatial learning and development is extraordinary. So we shortchange any learner when we exclude those things and don't make them accessible. It goes back to our responsibility at the highest level to look forward and find strategies that give all students access, and to support the organization's efforts to make that possible, because we know it will contribute to students having a higher rate of success, both personally and professionally.
Would you like to go second?
Yeah.
Mr. Stevens.
I think that you're absolutely right. I think it comes from our government, that in this case, perhaps state government, that sometimes the tendency to find the one solution, right? It's got to be A or B. For example, out of the recession, because we didn't have enough money, then we said, well, we decided, or someone decided that workforce development was the key to succeed. And we let the liberal arts aside. Years before, we were focusing too much on liberal arts, maybe, and not enough to workforce development. It's not either or, it's yes and. I think what we need to do is work with our friends in the legislature, state and federal, to try to develop new models of education, now that we have a little more funding available in the coffers and at the state level, if you will, to start developing different models where we can, as they said, we can educate more well-rounded students, not just solely focus on one or the other, because definitely there's not just one silver bullet, whether it's either just the liberal arts or just technical or workforce development. It's both and.
It's an excellent question and a difficult one. And I don't think I can articulate it any better than Kathy. It's critical that we have the opportunity, I should say it's tragic, we have the opportunity to develop students who, even if we have tuition and class cost at a fraction that of a state college, that some students can't afford to take the arts. I think we have shortchanged our students all the way through the education process. And so it's something that we need to attend to, both as a community, and I also think the arts in our community can step up. I was on the board of a fundraiser for the symphony for many years, and I think that they do an extraordinary job of outside of the box thinking to get funding streams for the symphony. And I think the arts, the ballet and our opera and our symphony, as well as Kendall and so forth, we could collaborate in many ways not thought of that can enhance the arts totally in our community and not be relegated just to Art Prize for a few weeks.
Thank you. Other questions?
Hi, I'm Brendan. I'm a student here. And what do you all think a district should have, like the relationship between a district and the community should be, such as like parents and families?
Can you elaborate a little more?
Yeah.
Like, just like, such as like, you know, like letting like the district know like how the kids are doing in their schools, and just like breaking the barrier, I guess, between.
Do you mean how that parents of students attending college should be more involved or more informed?
Yeah, yeah, like more involved with like their child's success and their future.
What a cool question. So do you have family here in town?
Yeah.
So this is fascinating to me because it sounds like you really want parents, and I would say most of your peers don't, involved in knowing what you're doing here on campus. Yeah, cool. All right, they raised you well. So, it sounds like a duality. On the one hand, you'd kind of like parents to sort of, I mean, the beauty of this campus is the fact that it's in the center of the city, and all kinds of demographics, including the most exciting to me is age demographics mingle, right? Even though we may not talk to each other as we pass, we still have this social bond. And I love, one of the reasons I love this school, knockout passionate about it, is because it isn't my college experience where I was taken and put in the middle of a agricultural flat plain called Michigan State University and didn't see my parents, didn't have much contact with my family. It seems sort of artificial. So I think that it would be very, you know, it's a great thing to dream and to think outside the box and to entertain these questions. And I think that maybe the college should open it up perhaps more to kinds of events for parents, and that parents ought to feel somehow more comfortable walking among their kids and that peer group that seems to have a disconnect which needn't be. Thank you for the question.
Go ahead.
Carlos. No, go
Okay.
ahead.
I think one of the, if not solutions, but one of the ways in which parents and other students can can become more involved in the life of the college is with the college is doing now under in President Pink's tenure. What he's done is, and by no means I'm trying to overpat him in the back, but it's fantastic what he's doing, in the sense that we are trying to transform or develop or increase that sense of a campus life in this college, right? If I was lucky to attend, or because of my duties, I attended the graduation ceremony, the last one, and the pomp and circumstance that surrounds that, and the sense of belonging, and actually in that campus feeling was fantastic. I think that that is going to entice some of those students that just because I was one of those that came in, took my classes, and out. Is going to entice them to engage a little more in the activities of the college. Unfortunately, 70% of our students are part-time students, right? For whatever reason, some of them have to go back to work, have to or to their families, etc. But there are others that, of course, have that opportunity, and instead of going home and studying there, stay here and go to the library and study at the library, or just go down to the cafeteria here, etc. Leave that, help develop that, or increase, elevate that sense of a college campus that will, at some point, the parents might say, well, why are you spending so much time at school now? Well, because it's kind of cool there. Oh, I have to see now, right? And now I would like to attend this events.
I think one of the important things about community college is it's a place of transition. Young people come here at a critical time in their life. They're growing up. People come back to school to change their life. Even at Goodwill, we brought people here because we knew it was the beginning of a new life. And in transition, we all need to find the right group of support around us. And maybe what we're moving to in our thinking then, this is a little like medicine, where now patients decide who's on their team, and the doctors and physicians listen to the patients in the decision making, because that's how a successful transition to better health will be made, not in directives. It could be we need to move towards a model that our students, wherever they are in transition, are deciding who's part of that team and how they're going to be involved. We want adults to be independent and not to be as reliant on parental care as they used to be, and yet we know they're going to need others in their world. Some of our people who have found the greatest challenges need case management services to succeed at school, because they're still struggling with housing and transportation and their other needs. And adults that have lost their job and just thought they were going to have it forever and now have to learn something new, they need a job coach. They need a cheerleader. They need someone who convinces them they can do well. So perhaps the thinking here is, who else do I need on my team to transition well? And how can we create that joint access for everybody so the transition's successful?
Thank you. Do we have another question?
I would imagine the most important thing as a board, member of the Board of Trustees, would be to listen, to make sure that the student body has a voice, that that voice is heard and considered in visioning, strategic planning, making fiduciary decisions, the things at the level the trustees function. We're not there to direct operations, but we can't lead well without hearing everyone and appreciating the importance of what every voice has to say.
Ms. Siegel, would you like to go second?
Thanks for asking the question. It's critical that, as Kathy says, that you're listened to and taken seriously. Of course, we can't, and I think it's relationship. Just like we need a relationship with our community, we need feedback from the community. I would love to be walking continually, as I have been for the last couple of months, you know, asking community folk, do you have someone that's gone to the college? What do you think of the college? What are your expectations? Where can we improve, and where have there been great successes? So the same way, the student body, really, you're the tenor of what's going on. You're the boots on the ground. We need to hear it. We need to take you seriously and to see how it fits in with the board mandate.
So one of the most important goals of the college is student success. And those organizations that serve students and that help students in that success are incredibly important. So, like my colleagues here have said, hearing during those board meetings, when we hear the reports from the students, to hear that feedback and constant feedback to the board will help us when we make a decision that will that might affect those organizations. Of course, what we need to do also is to support the president, support the leadership when they try to take barriers, those barriers, whatever they exist and if they exist, to the formation, to the formation of those organizations, or to support their success as well. Hearing what the students have to say again in those settings will allow the board to make the decisions that we need to make, of course, at a different level, and that eventually might impact the organizations. But definitely we need that feedback.
We have another question here.
Thank you. My name is Ken Fortier. I'm a graduate from GRCC just a few years ago. And my question is for each of you, just share one thing. You're in the board, it's your first year as a board trustee. What would be one thing you would hope to accomplish?
Wow. Thanks, Ken.
Mr. Sanchez?
Yes. Well, I've been here almost a year, and I think I will say, as far as accomplished, I think the first thing is what I'm trying to do and what I try to accomplish is to understand the breadth of all the activities that happen here at the college, and of course how they relate to the decisions that I'm going to be making, right? Because there's so much that is not literally, but you lift a paper, and there's a great program that is happening, and that is in collaboration with a university, with the private industry, et cetera, that we might not know. So getting to familiarize with that, with all those programs, to understand the breadth of the impact of the college in this community. And the reason why, because the board also functions as we feed ourselves in order to make our decisions, we feed ourselves from the feedback of the community. So once we know who's the college working with and how the college is working, we can bring that to the board and help the organization develop those strategic relationships, again, with private or with private industry, for example, or with other colleges, that for the benefit of the organization. It's an enormous amount of information that one receives in the first 12 months of serving on the board. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of really good stuff happening here.
Ms. Crosby?
My first year in Grand Rapids was devoted to learning about the community. I literally, when my board said, what do you need? I said, I need a list of everyone you think I need to talk to this first year to understand why they're here, why they've invested in this city, what's important. I feel that way about then GRCC. My first year has to be a complete investment in understanding the community that is GRCC. Who do I need to talk to? Who do I need to hear more regularly? What are the key relationships? Why have the investments been made? What's missing? We become passionate about the institutions we attach to, and to empathize with that passion and become a good servant leader, I'm going to have to invest at least a year in understanding all of the people that have cared so much about CC.
Thanks, Ken. I think at this point I would focus on three things. Number one, social cohesion. Because 70% of the student body here are part-time, I would focus on how do we get students to interact and be more socially cohesive. It's a wonderful campus with high energy. Students are smiling around here. It's crazy, but they are. And I think they enjoy being on campus. And I think that social cohesion through different social media is maybe the way to go. Two, funding streams. I know that the board is working very hard on funding streams. And I have this dream, and perhaps others on the board, that this is such a great place, and Dr. Pink has raised the stature exponentially, that we should be able to capture the Aspen Excellence in Community College Award. It's $1 million. We deserve it. We're the best. Let's go. Third, I would highlight, publicize the miracles that are happening in the classrooms. My dear friend has a daughter with very, very difficult learning needs, emotional instability. She loves her biology class here. She is, for the first time, not stressed out taking a class. I am so grateful. If I have a minute, I want to tell you about Troy Williams, who couldn't be here, who's a real star. Troy Williams grew up in Battle Creek, poor, single mother. His grandmother instilled the importance of education. He got a full scholarship for football to Grand Valley State. He played in the Nationals for 2 years. Third year, he tore his ACL, lost his scholarship, couldn't afford to go to college. So he was hired for several jobs, worked intensely to get money to come to community college. He will tell you community college was my salvation. It saved me. I got mentors here. I was able to take a variety of classes and found my passion in a business administration. He finished here, transferred to Grand Valley, and got his admin degree. He now has a small business and several ministries. He is the community college story.
Thank you. Do we have another question?
I have a question from the faculty as a whole. Assuming running for this role, you have become scholars of higher ed, and if you follow what's happening, there are several broad issues. We're fortunate at Grand Rapids Community College to have avoided many of these, but still over the years we've had issues with Corpus Christi, where there was a controversial play that was being offered. We had a faculty member a few years ago who ended up in the press showing a movie that a student didn't think was appropriate. So when we talk about the words of, if you, again, studying higher ed, trigger warnings, academic freedom, governed speech, part of higher ed creates an environment that is inherent with tension. Each one of you, as a board member, what is your position on issues of freedom of academic freedom? What does that mean to you, and how should it manifest in the classroom, and what would you do as a Board of Trustee member to protect both the freedom of the faculty member and at the same time represent the values of our community.
Wow. Well, it's a tough one, and I don't know whether to, frankly, cop out and say it depends on the situation, but I think there is that tension, and a good one. I'm very much a proponent of freedom of speech, particularly in the classroom, and I think that voices have been shut down on very much in the faith-based community on many state colleges, and I don't want any student to feel as though they can't express their passion and their heart and their faith position if that were so. So I wholeheartedly believe that. When it comes to the college support in terms of financial controversial art or plays, that's a difficult one for me because I think that we are entrusted by the community with funds to support community values. So it would depend on the situation. And if I were to say whatever comes forth, regardless of how offensive it may be to the community, I would find that very difficult. On the other hand, would I shut down some, controversial play, if that's what you're referring to? Something that the college has to be financially invested in would be a difficult decision.
I think I agree with Cheryl. I don't believe it's a cop out. Is in the sense of choosing which one, which not is a hard one. However, what I also believe is that I'll tell you, for example, at Ferris State University, we have the Jim Crow Museum. The Jim Crow Museum, you cannot go through the museum alone. It is required that we have a faculty member or a docent to go through with you. And the reason why, because there has to be an explanation of the artifacts you're gonna find there. So I believe also that the college and the university is when a student is exposed to several different experiences, so he or she can develop a character and develop a point of view, but it has to be somewhat guided. It cannot be just offensive for the sake of being offensive, but it has to be guided, and it has to have a reason why, and a faculty member or a docent needs to be or a program needs to be guiding that play, that movie, that program, whatever the case is. So the experience of the student has a purpose, and it is not just that the student does not feel that it's just being exposed to something and then try to deal with it on your own.
So I totally believe in the value of academic freedom, and the fact that it expands for students thinking that otherwise might never be offered to them in a setting that is safe, where discussion can occur, where challenges can be guided. We seem to be in a very interesting time when, in fact, we have groups of students on student bodies who want to curtail some of that freedom as they protect their own positions. And a trip to Virginia lately really brought that to mind as I met with staff at UV. But I would say that, again, what happens is we find ourselves at a community college entrusted with community resources and struggling in that place where we want you to have the most financial resource affordable and the greatest community support we can help to develop at the trustee level. And so we need to support that academic freedom, and at the same time, all keep each other very informed, very engaged, very aware of where we're walking together so that we can really enlighten our students and not just shock our community for the sake of that.
Thank you very much. Any more questions? All right. Seeing none, we would like to bring this forum to a close and thank the candidates for giving us an opportunity to meet you, and also offer our heartiest best wishes for the election. Good luck to you. Thank you to the audience too. We appreciated your questions and your attention, and have a good afternoon. Thank you much.
Thank you.